The wind was dry and full of smoke. Ashes floated through the air like dark snow. The sky above was orange and gray, covered by clouds and fire. Captain Ron walked slowly through the broken ruins. His boots crunched over metal pieces and black stone. The war had ended, but the world still looked dead. He had seen many battlefields, but this one felt different. Quiet, too quiet. No sounds of guns, no screams, no engines, only silence. And then he heard something soft, a small voice, a whisper, "Hello." Ron turned quickly, hand on his old rifle. He pointed the barrel toward the noise. But what he saw made him freeze. A little girl, no older than 6. She stood near a burned-out wall. Her dress torn, her face dirty, but her eyes glowed softly. In the dark, blue, but not normal blue, they shimmered like stars. Her skin was pale, but her ears were slightly pointed. It's not fully human. She walked up to him, slowly, carefully. Then she tugged on his dirty shirt, looked up at him with wide eyes. "Can I call you Dad?" she asked. Ron stared at her. He didn't move. He didn't speak. Something in his chest twisted. He had no kids, no family left, but something in her voice. It felt familiar, and her face. He knelt down slowly, looking into her strange, bright eyes. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice low. "My name is Yara," she said. "My mom told me to find you. Your mom." He asked, confused. "She said you would protect me," Yara whispered, holding a small, glowing pendant in her hand. It blinked softly with a blue light, pulsing with each breath she took. Ron felt cold. He had seen that pendant before, a long time ago. He reached out and touched it gently. A hologram suddenly opened above it. A woman's face appeared, not fully human, not fully alien, half and half. She had kind eyes and a soft voice. "Ron," she said in the message, "if you're seeing this, I'm gone. This is your daughter." Ron's hands began to shake. "No," he whispered, "that's not possible." But the woman continued, "She needs you. They will come for her. Don't let them take her." The message ended. The light faded. Yara stood quietly, watching him. Tears formed in her big eyes. "I'm sorry," she said. "I don't know what's happening." Ron looked at her, and without thinking, he placed a hand on her head. "You're safe now," he said. "I'll protect you." Suddenly, a loud beep echoed through the air. Red lights blinked on a piece of tech Ron carried on his belt. Enemy drones, they were close. He grabbed Yara's hand. "We have to move," he said. He pulled her behind him and started running. Through smoke, over broken walls, past dead machines in the distance. A small hoverbike lay half buried in rubble. Ron jumped on it, pulling Yara onto the seat. In front of him, he pressed the ignition. The engine roared, barely alive, but it worked. Behind them, the drones appeared, flying fast, blinking red. They opened fire. Laser shots burned the ground. Ron swerved left and right, dodging the beams. Yara held onto him tightly. "Are we going to die?" she asked. "Not today," Ron said, teeth gritted. He pushed the bike faster. Heading into the dark hills, smoke rose behind them. The sky burned with falling stars. And in that moment, Ron realized something deep in his heart. Even if she wasn't truly his daughter, even if it was all a trick, he would protect her no matter what. Because when she looked at him and said, "Can I call you Dad?" he couldn't say no. The hoverbike shook as it sped over broken ground. Its engine coughed like a dying animal. Ron held the handlebars tight, his eyes scanning the horizon behind him. The sky burned with smoke and lasers. Ahead, only darkness. And wind. Yara clung to him, arms around his chest. She was shivering, not from cold, but fear. Ron could feel it. Her heart beat, fast and scared, just like his own. "Almost there," he said softly. Though he didn't know where there was, he turned off the main path, sliding into a narrow canyon. The rocks were sharp, and the wind howled through them. Drones wouldn't follow here. Too tight, too dangerous. He slowed the bike and stopped beneath an overhanging cliff. They were safe. For now, Ron jumped off and helped Yara down. She was tired, her small legs shaking. He gave her his jacket, wrapped it around her. They sat beside the bike in silence. Yara looked up at him, her eyes glowing gently in the dark. "Are you really my dad?" she asked. Ron took a breath. "I don't know," he said. "Maybe. Did you know my mom?" He nodded slowly. A long time ago, Yara pulled out the pendant again. Its blue light flickered, then grew stronger. Without warning, it projected. A second message, but this one was different. The woman, Yara's mother, looked tired in the image. Her voice was quiet, full of fear. "They want her." "Ron," she said, "not just because of you, but because of what she carries. She's not just human, not just Zari. She's something new." Ron leaned closer, frowning. The image showed symbols. DNA strands, alien tech. He didn't understand it all. But one thing was clear. This child Yara wasn't just a little girl. She was a key. "What does it mean?" Yara whispered, watching the light. Ron looked at her carefully. "It means you're important," he said, "and in danger." A soft beeping noise came from his wrist device. Not drones this time, something else. A signal. Weak, but human. He stood up and looked at the sky. Stars flickered above, but one of them was blinking. An old rebel signal, a safe house, not far. "We're moving again," he said. "Where?" "To people who can help." He placed Yara back on the bike. She leaned against him, tired but silent. As they rode through the canyon, Ron's mind raced. How had this happened? Why hadn't anyone told him? Why had her mother waited until death to send the child? But most of all, why did Yara's face make his heart ache like something long buried was waking up again? They reached the edge of a dry riverbed. A broken ship lay hidden beneath tarps and sand. Old, rusted, but alive, he knocked twice on the hull. A voice responded from inside. Old and rough. Password. Ron grinned slightly. "I still. You that drink." The door creaked open. Inside, an old rebel soldier named Milo stepped out. He looked surprised. "Ron? You're alive?" "Barely," Ron said. "I need help." He stepped aside and showed Yara. Milo's eyes widened. "That's her, isn't it? You know?" "Everyone does," Milo said. "They've been hunting for her for years." Ron stepped inside the ship with Yara. Milo closed the door and locked it tight. The inside smelled like oil and dust, but it was safe. Yara looked around, then sat on a crate. She held the pendant close. She's scared. Ron said she should be. Milo replied, "If the syndicate finds her, they'll tear her apart." "Why?" "She's the bridge," Milo whispered, "between humans and Zari. Maybe more." Ron clenched his fists. He had left war behind, but now it had found him again. In the shape of a little girl who called him Dad. He looked at Yara. She looked back with those glowing eyes, eyes that held galaxies. He couldn't walk away now, not from her, not from what she was, not from what she could become. The old rebel ship sat silent in the middle of the desert. Winds blew sand across its hull, hiding it from above. Inside, Ron watched Yara sleep, curled up in a blanket. Her pendant still blinked with soft blue light. She looked peaceful, like any child, but he knew peace wouldn't last. Milo poured hot liquid into a metal cup and handed it to Ron. "You've made enemies, my friend," he said. "I didn't choose this," Ron replied. "No," Milo said, "but the girl chose you." Ron looked at the sleeping child. "She's just a kid. She's more than that," Kalo whispered. "She's the key to tech, no one fully understands. Ancient Zari machines that respond only to her kind. She's not just wanted by the aliens, Milo added. Humans want her too. Ron narrowed his eyes. Humans. Not just any humans, Milo said. The Syndicate, Ron's heart stopped for a moment. He had once worked for them, long ago. Special missions, quiet missions. Things no one talked about. But he left when he saw what they truly were. Power-hungry scientists and soldiers pretending to protect humanity. They didn't want peace. They wanted control. They know you have her, Milo said. They're coming. How long? Not long, Milo answered. Maybe hours. Ron stood, checked his old rifle, then opened a hidden compartment and pulled out an EMP grenade. If they want her, he said, they'll have to go through me. He didn't see the red dot blinking under the ship. Didn't hear the small tracking device pulsing quietly. Too small to notice, too late to stop, far above. In the orbit of the ruined planet, a Syndicate dropship received the signal. Inside, men in black armor prepared for launch. Target confirmed. A voice said, engage silent mode. The ship turned and began descent. Back on the surface, Yara woke up with a soft gasp. She looked around, scared. Where's my mom? She asked again. Ron sat beside her. She's not here, he said gently. But I am. Yara stared at him. You're not like other people, she said quietly. Ron raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? I hear things, she whispered. In people's minds, I heard yours, he stiffened. What did you hear? You're scared, she said. But you care. She looked down. No one ever cared before. Ron didn't know what to say. He just nodded. You're not alone anymore, he said. I promise. But outside, shadows moved. Silent boots touched down on sand. Black-armored figures surrounded the ship, laser weapons in hand. They moved without sound. No mistakes, no warnings. They were Syndicate hunters inside the ship. Alarms suddenly beeped. Milo cursed and grabbed a rifle. They're here, he shouted. How did they find us? Doesn't matter, Ron said. Get the girl to the tunnel. A hidden door opened in the floor. Old escape tunnels built for times like this. Milo dropped in first. Ron lifted Yara down to him, then turned toward the front hatch aisle. Buy you time, he said. He stepped out just as the door exploded. Bright light filled the night. The hunters entered like shadows. Ron fired, took one down, ducked behind wreckage. His mind was calm, old instincts returning. One hunter came close. Ron threw the EMP grenade. It exploded in a white flash. 2 hunters dropped. Their suits dead, but there were more. Too many. Ron fell back toward the tunnel. He was bleeding, arm grazed by plasma. He dropped in, closed. The hatch behind him, darkness, silence, then cool air. Milo helped him walk. Yara held his hand. I'm sorry, she said softly. I didn't mean to bring danger. Ron knelt beside her, even though pain shot through his leg. This isn't your fault, he said. You didn't choose to be born, but now that you're here, he smiled slightly. They're going to regret ever coming after you. They moved deeper into the tunnel. The Syndicate would not stop, but now Ron understood. He wasn't just protecting a child, he was protecting the future. And the future was watching him with glowing eyes. Eyes full of power, mystery, and something else. Hope. The tunnel twisted. For miles under the desert, carved long ago during the Resistance Wars. It smelled of rust, dust, and forgotten hope. Ron limped forward, his wound wrapped tight. Yara held his hand, our tiny steps silent. Behind them, Milo scanned for any signs. Of Syndicate pursuit, there were none. For now, hours passed. Then, a dim light appeared ahead, a doorway hidden in stone. It opened with a hiss as old scanners read Milo's face. They stepped into a large underground hangar. Steel walls stretched high. Lights flickered above, casting shadows on people moving silently between crates, machines, and strange alien tech. It was the hidden colony, one of the last places where humans and Zari worked side by side. Old rebels, scientists, and survivors lived here, out of sight, out of reach, until now, the moment Ron stepped inside with Yara. Heads turned, eyes widened. A silence spread through the room like a wave. Someone whispered, "That's her, the hybrid, the child of the prophecy." Ron looked around sharply. "What prophecy?" he asked. Milo didn't answer. Instead, a tall woman with silver hair stepped forward. Her name was Commander Selen, one of the original Zari defectors who once fought with humans. She studied Yara carefully, her silver eyes scanning every inch. "She looks like her mother," Selen said. "You knew her?" Ron asked. "I fought beside her," Selen replied, "and I warned her this would happen." Yara clung to Ron's side. "I'm not special," she whispered. Selen knelt down and looked her in the eye. "You're more than special, child." She said, "You're impossible." Ron frowned. "Enough with the riddles," he snapped. "Tell me what she is." Selen stood and gestured for them to follow. She led them into a chamber filled with glowing screens. Floating crystals hovered above ancient alien tech thousands of years ago. Selen began. The Zari discovered a machine deep in the stars, a weapon, or maybe a key. No one could activate it until now. She pointed at Yara's pendant. "It's a map," she said. "To the place where the machine sleeps." Ron stared at the screen. "So what does that make her?" Selen turned slowly. "The one who can wake it." Silence fell again, but it was broken by a sharp voice. "She's a threat." Everyone turned to see a man step forward from the crowd. He wore a heavy coat and a metal arm. "General Varn," Milo whispered. "He doesn't like hybrids." "She's a child," Ron said firmly. "She's a weapon," Varn replied. "If the Syndicate wants her, we should destroy her first." Yara stepped back, afraid. Ron moved in front of her. "If you touch her," he warned, "you'll find out I'm not as tired as I look." The tension grew thick until Selen raised her hand. "Enough," she said. "She's under my protection." Varn growled and stormed out. But his words had already spread. Not everyone trusted Yara. Some feared her. Others worshipped her. That night, Ron sat outside her room, watching the hallway. He didn't trust the colony. Not fully. Not with her life. Inside the room, Yara stared. At her pendant, it was glowing brighter now. She touched it gently, and suddenly, a soft voice spoke from inside. But it wasn't her mother's. It was something else. Old, distant, and not human. "You are the chosen link." The voice said, "The gate will open. The cycle will begin." Yara's eyes widened, and outside, deep in the lower tunnels, something pulsed. An ancient machine had awakened, drawn by her presence, waiting and far away in the stars. A Syndicate commander stared at a blinking screen. "She's found the colony," he whispered. "Prepare the strike." The lights in the colony flickered. Some said it was just power loss, old systems breaking down again. But Ron knew better. He stood near the command deck, eyes watching the screen. Blips of movement appeared on the edge of the radar. Too sharp, too fast. Drones. He clenched his jaw. "They found us," he whispered. Milo ran up behind him. "There's no way they tracked us through the tunnels." Then someone told them. Ron said, "Someone inside, below them, in the quarters." Yara sat alone. She stared at her hands, glowing softly now. Her pendant pulsed like a heartbeat, each beat faster than the last, like it was afraid. She stood and walked to the mirror. Her reflection looked different, brighter. Not just a child anymore. Something was waking up inside her. Something old and powerful. Back in the command room, Commander Selen barked orders. "Seal the gates, arm the defense drones." But it was already too late. The outer shields exploded in fire. The earth above trembled. Syndicate soldiers poured in, silent, precise, deadly, inside chaos. One man walked calmly through the smoke. General Varn, his metal arm shining red. He wasn't just letting them in, he brought them. Ron saw him on the lower cameras and his heart dropped. He betrayed us. He opened the gates from inside. Milo said, stunned. He was working with them the whole time. Where's Yara? Ron asked. Milo didn't answer. He was already running, down below. Varn and the Syndicate team moved fast. They weren't killing. They were searching. One soldier whispered through his cum. Target is in the lower east room. Yara heard. Footsteps. She backed away from the door, heart racing. Then the metal door hissed and opened. Varn stepped inside. He looked at her like a scientist staring at a test subject. You're smaller than I imagined, he said coldly. Yara stepped back. You knew my mom, she said. Yes, Varn replied. And I knew what she was hiding. He reached for her, but the moment his fingers touched her shoulder, the room exploded in light. A wave of energy blasted from Yara's chest. Varn was thrown across the room, hitting the wall hard. The lights went out. The floor cracked beneath her. Yara floated a few inches off the ground, her eyes glowing white. Elsewhere, Ron and Milo heard the explosion. That's her, Ron said. She's awakening. They reached the hallway as Syndicate troops surrounded the door. Without a word, Ron charged forward. His rifle lit up the corridor. He moved like fire, burning through the enemy, protecting one thing only, the girl inside the room. Yara fell to the ground, shaking. The power was gone as quickly as it came. Varn stood up slowly, his face bleeding. He looked afraid for the first time. You don't even know what you are, he whispered. You're not human, not Zari. You're a weapon designed by the stars. Yara looked at him. No, she said. I'm not a weapon. Varn raised his arm to shoot. But before he could fire, Ron burst through the door. He shot once. Varn dropped, hard and silent. Ron rushed to Yara. She was breathing fast, her hands warm with energy. I'm sorry, she said through tears. I didn't mean to hurt anyone. Ron hugged her tight. You didn't, he said. You protected yourself behind them. Milo checked Varn's body. Dead, but the damage was done. The Syndicate knew everything now. Selen arrived. Bruised and bleeding, we lost half. The colony, she said quietly. We need to leave. Ron looked at Yara. She looked up at him with eyes full of guilt and power. We'll find somewhere safe, he said. But there's one thing I need to know. He turned to Selen. This machine? The one her blood can wake. Where is it? Selen paused. It's buried in the mountains of Sector 12. She said, under a forgotten world. Ron stood. Then that's where we're going. Because the Syndicate wouldn't stop, the colony was no longer safe, and the only way to end this was to find out what Yara really was before someone else did. Asterisk, the transport ship rose from the ashes of the ruined colony. Its hull cracked, engines smoking, but it flew. Ron sat in the cockpit, eyes scanning the dead sky ahead. Behind him, the cargo hold was quiet. Yara sat alone, wrapped in a thick coat. She didn't speak, didn't cry. She just stared at the glowing pendant in her hand. The same pendant that had destroyed half a battalion, the same pendant that now led them to Sector 12. Milo checked the scanners. No patrols, he said. But it won't stay quiet for long. Ron nodded. Does she know what's waiting there? Milo looked back at the girl. No, he said, and maybe that's for the best. But Yara heard everything, even in silence. Her mind was awake. She could feel things now, machines in the air. Signals beneath the ground, voices in frequencies no one else could hear. Something was calling her, and she was afraid to answer. They landed in the shadow of the black spires. Tall stone mountains that cut into the sky like broken knives at the base of the largest peak. Ancient stone doors waited, carved with sorry symbols and glowing lines as Ron and Milo stepped forward. The ground beneath them hummed. The symbols lit up. One by one, Yara approached. Her pendant glowing like a star. The doors opened without a sound. Inside was not stone. It was steel, smooth, untouched, alive. The walls pulsed like they were breathing. Blue light flowed through veins in the floor. They walked deeper, past halls filled with strange machines. Past frozen chambers and shattered statues, all leading to a great room. And in the center of that room, the machine, it was not made by human or Zari hands. It was older. A massive sphere floating above the ground, covered in lights, patterns, and spiraling shapes. It whispered in a voice no one could hear. Except her. Yara stepped forward. Her pendant lifted from her neck and floated toward the sphere. Ron tried to move, but his feet were stuck. Not by force, by awe, the pendant touched the sphere, and the world changed. A blast of light filled the chamber. Ron shielded his eyes. When he looked again, Yara was floating. Her body surrounded by blue rings of energy, her eyes glowing like twin stars. And behind her, a vision, an army, humans and Zari standing side by side, fighting against dark machines that looked like syndicate tech, but twisted. Older, wrong, then the vision vanished. Yara dropped gently to the ground, breathing hard. The sphere pulsed once and went silent, but something had changed. She looked. At Ron, they're coming, she whispered. Not just the syndicate, something worse, far above them. Deep in orbit, multiple ships appeared, some human, some stolen, some unknown. And among them, the syndicate's prime carrier. Inside, the High Director watched her screen. She activated the core. She said coldly, "The prophecy is true. Should we fire?" Her second-in-command asked. "No," she said. "Let them come. Let her bring the army. Then we'll take it from her, back in the chamber." Milo raised a small device. Messages from other rebels were coming in. The core activation had sent out a signal, and it had reached every hidden fighter left in the stars. "They're answering the call," he said, smiling. "All of them." Ron looked at Yara. "You just started something," he said. She looked back, calm but scared. "I didn't mean to," she said. "But maybe it's time, because sometimes the only way to stop a war is to wake something powerful enough to end it." And now that power had a voice, a name, a purpose, and her name was Yara. The sky above Sector 12 turned black, not from night, but from ships. Hundreds of them, syndicate destroyers, stolen cruisers, drones without names. They surrounded the planet like a cage of fire. Waiting, inside the ancient mountain, the chamber of the machine glowed bright. Yara stood still in the center. Eyes closed, around her, light circled like waves. The sphere, now alive, pulsed with her heartbeat. Ron stood at the edge, watching. He had seen war. He had survived it, but he had never seen this. A child standing between two futures. And one impossible choice. Milo paced beside him. "They're going to land," he said. "They won't wait anymore." Ron nodded. "We make our stand here." Yara opened her eyes. "I heard them," she said quietly. "They're afraid of..." "What?" Ron asked of me. She replied, "But I'm afraid too." Ron knelt beside her. "You're not alone," he said. "No matter what happens, I'm with you." Then the mountain shook. A blast of wind roared through the tunnels, and the chamber doors exploded. Syndicate soldiers poured in, black armor, red visors, emotionless. They didn't fire. They stopped and stepped aside, and the High Director walked in, tall, cold, untouched by fear. She looked at Yara like a queen looks at a weapon. Finally, she said, "You've awakened the core." Yara said nothing, but her pendant glowed. The machine behind her began to hum. The director stepped forward. "You don't understand what you are," she said. You're not a child. You're a command system, made to control the ancient defense network left by the first builders. Your blood is the code. Yara looked at Ron, confused. I don't want to control anything. She said, I just want peace. There is no peace. There is no peace. The director said sharply, only order. Give yourself to us, and we can shape a perfect future. Ron stood and aimed his rifle. You call that choice? He growled. That's control. The director turned to him slowly. You still think you matter? She said, you're human. You're finished. But she was wrong, because outside, the mountain was waking. Across the stars, rebel ships were arriving. Human, Zari, hybrid. All answering the signal Yara had sent. They weren't finished. They were rising. Yara stepped forward. I won't be used, she said. Not by you. She reached out her hand, and the machine responded. A beam of light shot upward into the sky, through the mountain, into space. Syndicate ships began to shake. Their weapons froze, engines shut down. The fleet helpless. What are you doing? The director shouted. I'm choosing, Yara said. Choosing a future that belongs to everyone. But power has a price. The machine began to overload. It needed energy, a lot of it, and it was taking it from Yara. She fell to her knees. The glow dimmed, her breathing slowed. No, Ron said, rushing to her. There has to be another way. There is, Milo said quietly. Stepping out of the shadows, but it has to come from her. Ron turned to Yara. She looked at him. With tired eyes, if I stop the war, she whispered, will you stay with me? Ron's voice broke. Yes, he said. Always Yara smiled. Then she stood one last time, raised her arms, and gave everything. The machine exploded in light, across the planet, across the system. Weapons shut down, drones collapsed, the Syndicate's control gone. When the light faded, she lay still in Ron's arms, not moving, not breathing. The chamber was silent. Even the stars above paused. Ron held her close, eyes closed. Then, a flicker. The pendant blinked once, twice, and her eyes opened. You stayed, she whispered. Ron smiled through tears. I told you I would, outside. The first sunrise in years painted the sky. Not red from war, but gold. A new day, a new world. And in the middle of it, a child once built as a weapon, now stood as a bridge between what was and what could be.